So what do you call it here at the White House when 10,000 people illegally cross the border in a single day?
So what do you call it, Peter, when GOP puts forth a wait, no, you can't.
Karine?
I'm answering. Okay, we're gonna move
You're
on.
answering
No,
a question with a question? Okay.
no. We're moving on. We're
Karine,
moving.
please.
In the back. Go ahead.
You said you were stopping the flow at the border.
No.
10,000
I tried to
migrants.
answer, Peter. I
Okay.
tried to answer the question. You stopped me. Let's go. Go ahead.
So there's our White House press secretary completely deflecting the question on Biden's failed border policies. Now, when most Americans think of illegal immigration, they might think that people are coming from countries such as Mexico, or even maybe Central American countries such as El Salvador or Guatemala. But in fact, actually, they're coming from 160 different countries. And at this point, we even have Democratic mayors saying like, oh, this is just too much, because we're now seeing that even cities that aren't on the border are now becoming border towns because they're being bussed in or flown in. So here is House Speaker Kevin McCarthy saying just that. Watch.
You now have the governor of New York, a Democrat, saying if you're an immigrant coming to this country illegally, go to some other country. You've got Massachusetts governor declaring an emergency. You've got New Jersey governor. You've got the mayor of New York. These are states that are far from the southern border, but because of Biden's policies, every community now is a border city. We've got people coming from 160 different countries into our country.
Now, the Texas National Guard has actually been installing miles of razor wire to hopefully repel some of this illegal immigration that has been taking place, which of course the Biden administration did not like. They ordered for it to be cut down, so they actually went in there and cut all the wire down because, in fact, they love all this chaos, they love illegal immigration. Well, after that, Governor Abbott went ahead and ordered to be put back up, so they did put it back up. But here is Governor Abbott explaining just that. Watch.
Did they not have officials cut your razor wire that you put up to protect the borders of your state that they won't protect?
You're correct, Sean. So the Texas National Guard, for months after months after months, they've been erecting these razor wire barriers. It's concertina military-grade razor wire that denies access to the state of Texas from the river, from the border. And we have repelled tens of thousands of migrants who try to get into Texas illegally. And then yesterday, Joe Biden had his Border Patrol officers cut through that razor wire, and then they pulled the razor wire and suddenly let in hundreds, if not thousands, of people illegally into Texas, into the United States. So what did we do? We went back today with the Texas National Guard, and we doubled the amount of razor wire on that border to make sure we keep those people from entering into the United States illegally.
Now, what's crazy here is that even though Biden loves illegal immigration, he loves all this chaos taking place, as do a lot of Democratic politicians. Unfortunately, their voters are really, turning completely against it because their towns, which used to be far away from the border, so they weren't experiencing all this chaos and everything taking place, well, they are now quickly becoming a border town as well. So we have people in Chicago, they're now seeing all this chaos and they're completely against it. So they're now asking their politicians like, hey, what can we do to get these people out? Watch.
I wanted to know if there is a capacity limit, and what is that limit, if there is one, and why can't we close the borders of Chicago or the state of Illinois in the first place? Why can't we close the borders?
I don't know if there's a limit. I do know that when you are seeking asylum, you are granted protections from the U.S. to not return. So that is the process that folks are going through when they come here, when they get their interview, and then the Texas governor sends them to Illinois, and specifically Chicago.
So they get to come, once they do an interview in Texas, they get to come regardless. Texas says you're an asylum seeker, you're being persecuted, so yeah, you can leave your country and come here and go wherever you want.
Not Texas. The federal government is the one that does the process around asylum seeking. It is Texas who is making the decision to send them to Chicago.
And that's what I wanted to know. Can we say, no, we won't take anymore?
It has to come from the federal government.
So what's the solution to all this? Well, we absolutely need a president in office who actually wants to take a stand against illegal immigration. And clearly President Biden is not the guy. He's been incentivizing illegal immigration since the very day that he entered office. So clearly he is not a man for the job. So whether it's President Trump coming in and doing something about it, or if you want a Democrat, even someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he took a stand against President Biden, saying that his border policies are absolutely disastrous. So here is RFK Jr. saying just that. Watch.
We're significantly expanding legal pathways for entry so businesses can get the workers they need. Families don't have to wait for a decade to be together. I've also directed my team to make a historic increase in the number of refugees admitted from Latin America.
RFK Jr. seems to be the only Democrat trying to do something about migration. He's down in Texas tonight, and he joins me now. So you just heard AOC and the president say they're just trying to match third world workers with American companies. What's wrong with that, RFK Jr.? It's just a business plan.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it if it's legal immigration. The problem is the open border is not a way to do that. And I understand that a lot of the Democrats promoted this policy at the beginning of the Biden administration out of a humanitarian impulse, but it's been a catastrophic failure. It's caused a humanitarian crisis at the border. Our border policies are now being administered by the Mexican drug cartels. We brought 7 million illegal immigrants into this country over the past 3 years. And most of them, by the way, when I went down there, Jesse, we only ran, I interviewed about 300 immigrants coming across. Only 2 of them, the 2 groups from Latin America, had any kind of asylum claims. The rest of them said, we're just here to work.
It's being abused.
It's fine to bring people here to work. We ought to have an open gate. We ought to have open gates that encourage legal immigration and make it an easier path to citizenship. But just to open the borders, there's no country in the world that can do that and survive. And,
but RFK, we talk about
Eric Adams.
Yeah, we talk about how it's a humanitarian crisis for the migrants. Yes, it is, but it's becoming a humanitarian crisis for the American people. Do the Democrats in Washington see either of those things?
I don't think that President Biden sees. He's doubling down on this policy. He announced this week that he's giving amnesty to 470,000, only almost 500,000 Venezuelan immigrants who've come across over the last 3 years. And this is a really bad message. What that's going to do is going to drive a new tsunami of immigration, because people are now going to say, oh, if we come across illegally, we are going to get a path to citizenship. It's not the way to conduct an immigration policy. It's doubling down on a very, very bad policy. As you said, Mayor Adams, Eric Adams, who's the mayor of New York, has said this is killing New York. This is going to destroy the city. It is crushing the social service systems. The cost so far to New York City has been $12 billion. There's 110,000 illegal immigrants in the city. They have nowhere to go. They cannot work. It is a disaster for everybody who lives in the city. And now what this policy has done is to turn every city in this country into a border town. We have to have orderly immigration into this country. This is not the way to conduct it. And what we did today is to call on all Democrats to unify with Republicans and independents and ask President Biden to reassess this experiment on the border, because it has been a disaster for our country.